Hi, good afternoon. I'm Pieter Jordaan from Steve Properties in George, and today I have Coenie de Swardt with me and Ian de Swardt. They are from Ooba, and welcome. Nice having you on board and chatting to you. And today we're going to speak about bond origination and acquiring a bond. Coenie, tell us a little bit about Ooba and what is the current state of the market.
Peter, thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, no, we start off with a bang, the new year, and we're very blessed that we experienced a fantastic January. So we're looking forward to the year ahead.
Great, awesome. And tell me a little bit, what is your take on the interest rate that didn't change? You know, it's a little bit of a disappointment for everybody.
Absolutely, all over the show, the people are complaining of the fact that the interest rate hasn't been increased by 0.525% or even 0.5%.
No, absolutely. I believe, we should have been 1% less already.
Absolutely.
But that is some of the stuff that we can't change. We just need to play the ball.
Absolutely.
Now from your side, you are more into Ooba. Tell us a little bit more, why Ooba?
Peter, to use an originator is, I would say, essential for every client. In the market nowadays, your choices are limited, firstly, and to get the worst of the choices is to stick with only one choice. So what we do is we give you and what we call this a comparison service. So you get the best deal, best interest rate, and if you think about it over, let's say, R1 million bond over 20 years, your repayment factor is about anything between 2.3 to 2.7%, can be higher depending on your interest rate. So to get a comparison and a comparable to give you negotiating power with your own bank is absolutely vital, because it saves hundreds of thousands of rands over the long term, and that's exactly what we do. Give you the options and gives us negotiating powers with your own bank as well.
Awesome, because one of the challenges we have, is some of our clients always think that they've got a banker, they're banking with a certain bank, and if I go to that banker, they will most probably be, I would say, assisted more easily because the banker knows their finances, their circumstances, and so on. But the reality is that they take on the application and so on, but when it goes not to that banker, it actually is going off to head office or wherever they process the application and so on. And my feeling is that if I come back to the client, they actually present, maybe you can get a full offer, it's fine, but not always the best interest rate.
No, that's what we see as well. There's a very nice ad on the TV at the moment, and I'm sure you've seen it, with the insurance broker sitting in his office and someone scrolling through a phone saying, I've got 12 quotes. And that's exactly what the banker does, is he presents you one, no other options, and you're stuck. The moment you're there, it's over. And we've seen it so many times before that when that quote comes direct from the bank, they don't have the client's interest at heart, they have their own. So they maximize for themselves, and the client suffers in the end. And that's where
I can just add on that banker, and I'm not negative towards the banker, but that banker is not in the Home Loan department. He actually referred that bond application to the Home Loan department.
And the person at the Home Loan department don't know the client.
Exactly.
So nobody that can motivate the application as such.
There's no personal contact like you have and what we have with that client. That personal contact disappears, and at the end of the day, it can turn out to be a very bad experience for that client.
And the way that I see it from my own experiences and past experiences with clients is that once you use a bond originator like Ooba, you actually take control into your own hands. Because now, say for instance, it is handed into the different banks, and every one of the banks comes back with a quote, and then I can decide, which one I would prefer with the best interest rates. And even sometimes, if I prefer a certain bank and the other banks come in with a better rate, I can go back to my bank through Ooba and say, I've received a better quote, can you do better? Well, I've seen it in my own past experiences. And that is the main thing, is putting the money back into the client's hand, the control into the buyer's hand. It is all about relationships, and your banker can do a lot for you, but I doubt it if I can do what Ooba can do for the client. I've seen it numerous times that the best deal is actually when we do it through the bond origination. Could you tell me, okay, so in terms of the current status, what are the banks looking for? What is their loan to value requirements at this current stage?
Yeah, Pieter, look, we've got two kind of types of clients. You've got the salary client and the self-employed client.
Yes.
Okay, obviously the salary client is a easy, let's call it the easy deal.
Yeah.
In other words, you get your pay slip, you see the net amount on the pay slip reflect in the bank statement, and it's an easy deal for the credit manager to assess. On the other hand, when you're self-employed, it's a different ballgame, because now they ask for your financial statements, they ask for nowadays for management accounts, and they would like to see whether the letter confirming his income, or the client's income, is reflected in the financial statements. So, it's different and it's difficult sometimes for a self-employed. But on the other hand, there are good applications for self-employed people as well. Yeah, we experience it every day. There are sometimes difficult ones where let's call it the farmer, where the farmer submit financial statements. They're not working on a profit basis. It's always a loss, and they must read between the lines. And then that's where the banker sometimes will come in and say, listen, this guy is, let's call it walking on water. He's very good, but the financial statements are in this condition because of tax purposes, etc., etc.
But I think at the end of the day is when you are working with those self-employed clients, and you've got the whole picture, you can actually do the motivation from your side and assist the clients and demonstrate to the bank why this client is a good client, and it is not like, because they actually sit with a blank canvas. They don't see the client, they see the figures, and they need to work from that. But if you motivate why, and with all the information that you have, it makes it so much better.
Yeah, Pieter, Ian will add on that, but I just want to tell you something. It's of the utmost importance that when we submit an application to the banks, we do a motivation on each and every application. Make the life easier for the credit manager. We're telling him why he must approve this deal.
Yeah.
And that is why you're working through a bond originator.
Awesome.
Yeah, self-employed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, self-employed it's a challenge, obviously. Sustainability of income is mainly the issue that they sometimes have. And then, depending on how he runs his business as well. But that's our experience, because we've been doing it for a long time. And you get to know certain ways of doing things, and what to present and how to present that same thing, so it's the same thing looking different, and that is always a benefit for any client.
Pieter, just to add on that, the challenge is with the self-employed client is sometimes the auditor will give us a letter confirming that this client is drawing 100,000 rands out of his business every month, but sometimes it's not reflected in the bank statement. So it's a different kind of application, a self-employed application, because sometimes the client will draw, and you'll see it in remuneration. There's the client's remuneration reflected in his financial statements, but not always. It's not always the case.
Yeah, because it's not. You need to read between the lines.
And not everyone plans 6 months to a year ahead to when you're going to buy. You see something now,
Absolutely.
you contact the agent and you say, I want to go look and I want to buy now because it's a good deal out there that you can present to that client as well. So, yeah, that I think is one of the big benefits where we can, because we know how to motivate, we know how to show the credit manager what to look at and assess according to what you present.
I think what came to mind to me now is that the banker or the personal banker is working daily with different clients with different scenarios, doing different, I would say, different accounts, different inquiries from different people. But you guys specialize only in bonds, so your focus, and by heart what is required by the banking institutions. So you don't have to treadmill on water or wonder. You're doing and the other thing, like you said, is years of experience. We've been with Steve George now for 13 years, and you were there when we came on board. So it is years of experience that makes it so much easier at the end of the day, as such. Talking about the buying a property in a company or a trust, how does that work? How does that influence the clients?
It does to a certain extent. A little bit more paperwork, if I can put it that way. It is your minimum requirement will always be the same, because that person, either in the trust or the PTY or company, will 9 out of 10 times be a self-employed client. Yes. So the base stays the same, and a lot of people are doing that now for various reasons. That it might be something that the bookkeeper, the auditor said, or someone gave advice and they got their mind set on that. There's no specific benefit that we see in doing it that way. Instead of your personal name, there's nothing holding you back doing it either. So it is a little bit more paperwork. Obviously, that's where we come in and we can say, listen, here's the email, or give us the number of your auditor. Let us chat to them, explain to them how the bank would like to see this, because now you've got an entity that is not really part of the other entity. It's just a freestanding entity, and how to then present that to the bank with the same motivation, same documentation.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's all about people might buy a second or a third property for investment purposes, and then they would for I would say future tax benefits or whatever benefits there might be, you utilize those kind of I would say frameworks or trusts or companies. It is important for the clients before going that route to go and speak to their auditors or their bookkeepers and so on, because it is not a decision that is lightly taken, because sometimes it is better to purchase a property in your own name. So it all depends on the circumstances. But there's other scenarios where we have clients that is actually purchasing a guest house that is already running and VAT registered and so on. Then it is a better call to register a company and to work around those
when it's a going concern, the benefits are, I think, obvious in a sense.
All right, 100%. Coenie, yes. In terms of the banks, what is the is there a motivation from the banks to still invest in property, giving out loans?
Pieter, the banks are lenient at the moment. They're giving loans. I mean, I think they capped it at 7.5 million, 100% bonds. There's certain banks who capped it at 7. But I mean, we got a bond the other day for 11.5 million, 100% bond.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but Pieter, the most important thing is that once we submit the application, it doesn't matter for what amount, is to see whether we can get all the paperwork together.
Yeah.
That's important to us. Getting the paperwork together, then and we'll see that this client is in that price category that he can buy. Then it's an easy deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes not. Sometimes we see that the client maybe is overspend, etc., etc. Then we get a decline, but it's not the norm. But they're lenient. The banks are very lenient at the moment.
And young credit score, how necessary is a good credit score?
It's still very, very important because that affects mainly your loan percentage that the bank will give you. So if you fall in a very high risk scoring area, the bank might only give you 80% of the purchase value with a 20% deposit. The banks are all, what the banks like now, first-time home buyers, because it's and they're giving costs of up to 8% on
Sure.
top of the purchase price. So it's anything between 103 and 108% that they're giving. So to not have a deposit these days is not the end of the world. It might affect one or two things like your interest rate, because the risk for the bank increases with a higher the loan value that they're giving. Less risk on you, more risk on them. So they would want a little bit more, back, if I can put it that way.
Yes. Awesome. And when it comes to, I would say, investment properties, rentals, do the banks take rental income into account as well?
Absolutely, they do. Current rent, there are products out there for future rent.
Okay.
So if you purchase a second or third property and there is a tenant in with a signed contract or a letter stating, listen, it's not my main residence, this property at the moment going rate is, argument's sake, 25,000 rand, the banks do take that also into account. Yeah. They do not like to use it as part of the affordability for the repayment, but they can use it to squeeze or fill
so for a final decision, it might make a
small little
difference.
gaps. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So they can. It's not like I don't have an income. I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to get 45,000 rand in a month. They'll just straight decline because the risk is too high.
Yeah.
If it's an addition to what you have, it is beneficial to the client. Yes.
Now we talked a little bit earlier about first-time home buyers. Now, what is a first-time home buyer?
Anyone that has not had a property registered in their name at the deeds office before.
And if two people is buying a property and the one has had a property in the past and one didn't have a property,
as long as one did not have a property, it's a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
And the banks then assist with also 50% reduction on registration costs.
of course.
Registration only, not transfer
not
duty.
the transfer duty.
Not transfer
because it's two
costs.
different attorneys
Yes.
that is actually doing the
Because some
transaction.
people do think you get 50 on the one hand, 50 on
Yeah,
the other.
yeah. Now that's always a challenge because everybody wants a good deal, but we need to understand that attorneys need to make a living as well.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. Any last words from you, Coenie?
Pieter, I think there's a lot of people out there who think they can't buy a house. They can buy a house.
Yes.
Because if you see what people are paying for rent nowadays,
Absolutely.
and you see what the repayment is on R1 million is now, let's call it at 10.25%, 8,500 rands on R1 million. See, obviously 16,000 rands on 2 million, and people paying more rent as that on 2 million rand. As a repayment on 2 million rands.
But don't you think it is sometimes that people don't want to go because they fear?
Absolutely.
There's always this fear factor, that, will I be able to afford the bond, or maybe my ego's on the on the line, if they decline me, is it going to be an embarrassment?
I've said to people before, look, if the banks decline you, you won't be the first one, and you won't be the last one. It won't be the last time that we try. It might just be something that in the recent past didn't go the way it should have gone. Buying a house, always a good investment. And what we also have is we have the facility to pre-qualify a buyer.
Yes.
In other words, if someone is doubting the amount that they can buy for, we can do a very good specific calculation of that and then check the affordability at the same time. If you have a qualification like that, it just gives you a little bit of peace of mind that the checks has been done. It does not, however, affect how the bank looks at your application. An application can only be submitted with a signed offer to purchase, but we can do, let's say, 95% of the grafting before the time and say, listen, yes, go out there, be confident, buy within this range, so that you don't drive a client to a 1 million rand house and he can actually go to, say, 3.5 million or vice versa.
Pieter, and then just a very important point is for anybody listening out there, if you get pre-qualified, it does not affect your scoring.
Yes.
Very important, because a lot of people will ask me, if I do a qualification now and next month again, does it affect my scoring? It does not.
We've got arrangements in place with the banks that when our credit check goes in, that will be disregarded because we've done the checks on their behalf, or tried to do the checks on their behalf before the time. The moment we submit, they do their own one, and only that one will then count there. So if there's 10 of whichever originator, Ooba Home Loans obviously, lying there, it's just that you've been trying to get yourself prepared for that step of buying.
Awesome. Any last words from you?
I think if I want one thing, can go back to why use an originator. I think for the agents and yourself is when you go to a banker, the point of contact isn't always that easy. Because if you want to see a banker, you've got to go sit in that line and wait for him to be available for you. We 24/7. You've got direct point of contact. We've got direct point of contact with the bank, which then gives that feedback to you. Because in these days, if we take a month and a half with a bond, there will be 4 other buyers. Circumstances can sometimes take about a month, but I mean these days 2 weeks is, I would say, a fair turnaround time.
If the documentation is good.
If everything is in place, obviously, touch wood, and Murphy, Murphy. I just killed myself there with Murphy. But evaluation can be done within 2 to 3 days if everything goes all right. Application is in, all the minimum documentation is there, and you don't have to phone behind the client who phones the banker. One phone call, one WhatsApp or whatever, and it's us.
Yeah, because especially in the George area, we see it now with properties that is actually in high demand. That the sellers, don't want to give long periods for people to get a bond, and I think that is what's so nice about Ooba and the bond origination. At the end of the day, if everything is in there and the client documentation is on hand, there's nothing that.
And that's why we like that pre-qualification, because the contact's been there. We've got 99% of the paperwork in place, and we just add what is needed. So, and even if they don't want to do a pre-qualification, just to come and sit and chat to us and prepare and be prepared for that signing.
Last point, vacant land?
Yes.
60% loans?
60%.
60% loans from ABSA, FNB, Nedbank. No, not Nedbank. but in some cases where the client is really walking on water, we can go to a Standard Bank for 80% loan to value. But 10-year repayment term, with FNB and Standard Bank, and 20-year repayment term with ABSA.
Okay, but that is just on a straight vacant land.
Yeah.
But if I buy the vacant land with I would say a building loan as well, then
Up to 100%.
Up to 100%.
We can get to. Yeah.
And if I'm a first-time buyer, I can get a better deal.
I don't think you can get your costs included.
Can I? So I'm pushing it now. I'm pushing
because
it
you
now.
only pay transfer fees on the stand. Yeah.
All right, Coenie, Ian, thank you very much. It was nice having you here. It's nice chatting about bond origination. You're welcome to contact Steve, welcome to contact Ooba. And if you are in the market to buy a property or sell a property, make contact with us and we will guide you through the process. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pieter.